Okay, so you ready for this one? The story you sent in. Oh, it's a wild one. Betrayal, a surprise inheritance, and even a little bit of, well, we'll just say unique medicine. It's all about Mark, a totally average guy in Middle City. But on his 30th birthday, everything changes. So picture this. Mark's heading home. It's his birthday. He's thinking cake, presents, celebrating with his wife, Yanami. But as he gets closer to their bedroom, he hears voices. Uh-oh. It's Yanami, all right, but she's definitely not alone. From what we can tell from your source material, it's pretty obvious Yanami is with another man, this guy named Christian. And what they're saying about Mark. Brutal. Yanami is practically begging Christian to just get rid of Mark, calling him worthless, and saying he's the only thing in the way of her in this luxurious life with Christian. Oh, and Christian's family. Apparently, they're loaded and super influential. So yeah, Mark is understandably furious, bursts into the room, and, well, what he sees is exactly what he feared. Yanami, barely dressed, with Christian. What a betrayal. But you know what? Yanami doesn't back down. She actually makes it worse. Tells Mark that being his wife was the worst mistake of her life. Blames her grandfather for forcing the marriage. Seems Grandpa, old Master Sebastian's son, was way into astrology and fortune-telling. Got it in his head from some astrologer that Yanami marrying Mark would bring the family tons of wealth and good luck. So Mark, who seems like a pretty naive, submissive guy, ends up doing all the housework for 3 years. Cooking. It sounds like Yanami and her family just took advantage of him. Zero real affection. And this is where things get really intense. Mark, who never really stood up for himself, he snaps. Lunges at Christian in this blind rage. But Christian, coming from a wealthy family, probably used to getting whatever he wants, he fights back. And it gets ugly. Christian beats Mark up bad. And get this, Yanami is cheering him on. She even tells Christian to kill Mark, calls him a worthless creature. And can you imagine what Mark must be going through? Betrayed, beaten up by the woman he loved. It's his birthday. And they drag him bruised and bleeding out of the house, and they literally toss him onto the street. His own wife and her lover. Beat him up and throw him out like trash. On his birthday. Talk about a terrible way to turn 30. So Mark's left on the sidewalk totally lost, physically and emotionally drained, betrayed, with nowhere to go. As he's walking away, the pain, the humiliation, it's just too much. He collapses. And just when things seem completely hopeless, fate steps in. A sleek black Bentley pulls up. This beautiful woman gets out. Her name is Emily Black, and it seems she's been watching Mark. Emily, along with her secretary and a couple of bodyguards, they scoop Mark up, get him into the car. She tells him to take him to the best hospital in Middle City. But as they're driving, she keeps looking at Mark, comparing him to a photo on her phone. She's muttering to herself, wondering why her grandfather was so insistent that she find this guy. And this, my friend, is where things get really interesting. Turns out, Emily's grandfather, the big boss of the Black family, gave her a very specific job. Along with the mysterious jade necklace. Find Mark, put the necklace on him, and Macker Knight, are you ready for this? Marry him. Can you imagine Emily's reaction? I mean, why would she, the heiress to a fortune, marry some random guy? Especially since he's already married. Her grandfather explained that Mark's father had actually saved the Black family from financial ruin years ago. So this marriage was their way of paying back that debt. He told Emily that Mark's dad was an extraordinary man, and he believed Mark must be special too. But while Emily's trying to wrap her head around all this, something crazy happens in the back of the Bentley. The jade necklace, which is now sitting on Mark's unconscious chest, it vanishes. Like, poof, gone. It breaks apart into these beams of light that go right into his body. And they all meet at 3 specific points. These points are called Dantian. They're like energy centers in some martial arts traditions. Kind of like acupuncture points, but, more mystical. It's like the necklace activated these Dantian. Like it filled Mark with this powerful energy. But Emily's lost in thought, so she has no idea about any of this. Meanwhile, Mark is in this dreamlike state. He's moving through darkness, and then he's face to face with this radiant figure who claims to be his father. Talk about a plot twist, right? Imagine how shocked Mark must have been. He grows up thinking he's an orphan and suddenly discovers he has a dad. And not just any dad, but one with amazing knowledge and abilities. This father figure explains that he's given all his skills and knowledge to Mark, calls it his inheritance, Haley. Then he shows Mark this incredible library of information. Advanced medical techniques, martial arts mastery, even mystical arts. It's like downloading a lifetime of expertise straight into Mark's brain. The father says he's disappointed that Mark spent 30 years living an ordinary life, but he also hopes Mark will embrace his true potential now. He tells Mark to be strong, a conqueror, someone who can overcome anything. And he says he'll come back, but only when Mark has achieved real greatness. Intense, right? So the dream ends and Mark wakes up in a hospital room. confused and disoriented. Emily introduces herself, explains that she found him collapsed on the street, and as they're talking, Emily suddenly starts coughing like crazy. A doctor comes rushing in, says it's asthma, and gives her some medicine. But here's where things get even weirder. As Emily's struggling to breathe, Mark has this sudden realization. He remembers all that medical knowledge from his dream. And he knows how to cure her. Now, this is a bold move. Mark's not a doctor, remember? But something compels him to tell Emily he can help. Of course, Emily and the doctor are skeptical. The doctor even warns Emily not to trust Mark, thinks he's trying to take advantage of her. And Emily's bodyguards, they're on high alert, ready to jump in. But Emily, maybe she senses something different about Mark, she decides to trust her gut, agrees to let him try this unusual treatment. So Mark, following the instructions from his dream, puts his hand on Emily's chest and closes his eyes, focusing his energy. Emily feels this weird warmth spreading through her, like an electric current. The bodyguards and the doctor are just watching in silence, probably thinking this is some crazy scam. After about 10 minutes, Mark takes his hand away. Nothing seems different. Emily still feels sick. The doctor's ready to call Mark a fraud, and the bodyguards are moving to grab him. But Emily tells them to wait. She wants to give Mark's treatment a full 10 minutes. As they watch the clock, Emily starts to feel really uncomfortable. Her body tenses up. She looks like she's going to be sick. And then, suddenly, Emily throws up this dark, thick stuff, along with some black phlegm. Everyone is horrified. They think Mark poisoned her. But Emily notices something amazing. Her asthma symptoms, the tightness in her chest, the urge to cough, it's all gone. She feels better than she has in years. Shocked and amazed, Emily tells her bodyguards to bring Mark back. She needs to understand what just happened. Meanwhile, Mark has left the hospital. He's walking down the street, trying to make sense of everything. Was it all a dream? Does he really have these incredible abilities? And what about his wife? Just then, his phone rings. It's Yanami, and she is furious. She orders him to come back and sign their divorce papers. Looks like she's moving on with Christian and their supposed connection to the Black family. So Mark goes back to the hospital room, and Emily asks him straight up, "Are you a doctor?" Mark, still totally bewildered, admits that he isn't. And then Emily surprises him again. She offers to drive him home. So here's Mark, the guy who was just thrown out of his own house, riding in the Bentley with the heiress of the Black family, like something out of a movie, right?
Yeah.
They arrive at the Sun family home, and you can feel the tension. Yanami is impatient and rude, while Christian can't stop staring at Emily. He tries to impress her by bragging about his family's ties to the Black family. He has no idea that Emily eyes the Black family representative. Emily just watches this whole thing with this quiet amusement, like she sees right through their desperation. When Yanami tells Mark to hurry up and sign the papers, Emily steps in. She tells Yanami that feeling to see Mark's goodness is her own problem, like Mark is worth way more than Yanami realizes. And Mark, feeling empowered by Emily's words and his new sense of self, signs the papers right away. And then he does something unexpected. He takes Emily's hand and walks out of the house, leaving Yanami and Christian speechless. What a moment. Mark, who was so submissive before, now walks out with confidence and dignity, hand in hand with a woman who sees his true potential. The power dynamic is totally flipped. But wait, there's more. Emily, to thank Mark for curing her asthma, gives him the keys to a fancy apartment she owns. It's called Dragon Paradise. Kind of symbolic of Mark's transformation, don't you think? Then Emily leaves, and Mark is left standing there, in awe of his new life. Divorced, living in a luxurious apartment and filled with this mysterious energy he's just starting to understand. That night, Mark decides to try the breathing exercises his father showed him in the dream. As he focuses on his breath, he feels this rush of energy all around him. It flows into his body, activating his 3 Dantian points. He meditates for hours, and when he's done, he feels powerful, like he has this burning desire to unlock his full potential. So where do we leave Mark after this crazy day? He's gone from a miserable, abused husband to a man with incredible potential. He has this vast knowledge and powerful energy flowing through him. The question is, what will he do with it? Will he go after Yanami and Christian for what they did? Or will he take a different path? Embrace his destiny, become this powerful martial artist, maybe even explore those mystical arts from his dream. Who knows what he'll do? And what about Emily Black? Is she just being nice, or is there something more to her role in Mark's life? Remember how her grandfather insisted she marry Mark, even though he already had a wife? That's pretty strange, right? Maybe her grandfather had more in mind than just repaying a debt. It feels like we've just scratched the surface of this story, and we have so many questions. But that's what makes a good story so interesting, right? It makes you think and leaves you wanting more. So what do you think will happen? What will Mark choose to do? What secrets are Emily and her family hiding? I would love to hear your theories. This deep dive has been crazy, full of twists and turns, and that's what I love about exploring these stories with you. Uncovering the unexpected, diving into the unknown, and leaving you with something to think about long after we're done. Thanks for joining me, and remember, sometimes the best stories are the ones we create in our own minds.